Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of textual study of the Quran. Today we'll be starting off with verse 83 of Surah Anam. And you would recall that in our last session we had discussed the very famous and very moving passage of the Quran in which Prophet Abraham tried to convince his nation that the heavenly bodies that they worship in the form of the stars, the sun, and the moon, they all are subservient to a supreme law, and that law is governed by God. And according to this law, they rise and they set. And this again shows that they cannot be God themselves. And it is in response to this that we find verse 83 telling us, وَتِلْكَ حُجَّتُنَا آتَيْنَاهَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ نَرْفَعُ دَرَجَاتٍ مَنْ نَشَاءُ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ حَكِيمٌ عَلِيمٌ. So the words are, this was our conclusive reasoning which we provided Abraham against his people. We raise ranks after ranks of whomsoever we desire. In reality, your Lord is all wise and all knowing. So the clear thing that we can conclude from here is that what was said earlier about the rising and setting of the stars, the sun and the moon, was not an evolution of his own thinking. It was not something that Abraham was questioning his own self and was trying to make two and two together. He was actually trying to put this argument before his own nation so that they realize. And that is why it is said, Tilka hujjatuna atainaha ala Ibrahim ala qawmihi. This was the conclusive argument that we blessed Abraham with, so that he is able to convince his people. So the words ala qawmihi, of course, tells us that it was something that he wanted to bear witness to his nation. So the words are against his nation or towards his nation. And then there is a whole series of verses. But before we start off, another thing worthy of mention is narfa'u darajatin man nasha, which means that we raise ranks after ranks of whomsoever we desire. Now, in the Arabic language, the word darajat is used, and I have explained this earlier on also, that in the Arabic language there is this style in which the plural does not always represent multiplicity. It also is something that is meant to provide, especially in the case of being an undefined noun. If it is a plural and undefined noun, then it actually is something which incorporates a little bit of exaggeration. So darajatin has been translated as ranks after ranks, just in order to let people know that this is how the Almighty is going to conduct himself. And when it is said that in reality your Lord is all wise and all knowing, as the last part of this verse says, so the implication is that God's will and desire is not without a basis. It is based on his knowledge and wisdom. He himself grants these ranks of nearness to those who are worthy of them. So when he grants people ranks and status and position, it's not out of any whim, it's not out of any favoritism, it's on the basis of his knowledge and wisdom. And that knowledge and wisdom tell us that people who are given these ranks, they are actually worthy of being given these ranks. So now we have a whole list of prophets that is going to be spelled out before us, and it will be shown how all these prophets of God had brought the same guidance from God, and the prophet has been told to obey their guidance. So the words are, وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ كُلًّا هَدَيْنَا وَنُوحًا هَدَيْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِهِ دَاوُودَ وَسُلَيْمَانَ وَأَيُّوبَ وَيُوسُفَ وَمُوسَى وَهَارُونَ وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Then not only this, to Abraham we gave Isaac and Jacob. We guided each of them. Before this, we had given the same guidance to Noah, and after Abraham to his descendants David, Solomon, Job, Joseph, Moses, and Aaron also. Thus do we reward the righteous. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And then وَزَكَرِيَّا وَيَحْيَا وَعِيسَى وَإِلْيَاسَ كُلٌّ مِّنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. The list continues, and it says, and to Zacharias, John, Jesus, and Elias too. All these were among the righteous. وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ وَالْيَسَعَ وَيُونُسَ وَلُوطَ وَكُلًّا فَضَّلْنَا عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. And to Ishmael, Elisha, Jonah, and Lot also. Each of them we had exalted above the people of the world. So each of them we had exalted above the people of the world. Obviously, this refers to the fact that each of them were prophets of God. They were given this special status of being torch bearers of God's guidance so that they could come and deliver this guidance to people. Remember, the scheme of the Almighty that has been outlined at various instances in the Quran is that as far as basic guidance is concerned, all of us as individuals, we have been born with this innate guidance regarding the awareness of right and wrong. And on most occasions, we are able to find our way. Our intellect guides us. But then, of course, it falls short in certain areas, and it is in those areas that divine guidance comes and guides it, our intellect. So it's not that divine guidance can comes and gives us original guidance regarding morality, for example, because guidance about morality is something with which we are born. We already know what right and wrong are. In certain areas, for example, how to worship the Almighty, what exactly are the means to worship, how should we connect to the Almighty. So these are the areas in which our own intellect will fall short. And if you look at history, it tells us that we have fallen well short of this, because in the absence of any divine guidance as to how to connect to God, people have come up with all sorts of different formulae and different methodologies. Some of them have forsaken the world, and some of them think that, well, it's just like a 24-hour devotion to the Almighty that is essential. There are others who think that, well, it should be very marginal. And there are still others who think that, well, as far as we are morally pure and sincere, we don't need even to remember God all the time. So these were the extremes, and these are still the extremes through which mankind has been passing through. So what do the prophets of God do? They complete this guidance that we have in our own selves regarding right and wrong, and certain things which are concise and which need to be defined, they make them clear to us. And as I said, one of the most significant areas of divine guidance is how to connect with God, what are the worship rituals that we need to connect with God, and also what are the optimum number of worship rituals that are required for this purpose. And in the absence of any divine guidance, as I said, you will see that how mankind has continued to wander around in the labyrinths of darkness, and they have not been able to come up with anything that is going to be a balanced approach towards remembering the Almighty. And again, the methodology that has been adopted by the Almighty by sending these prophets is that for a very long time, prophets used to come to every nation, and that, it seems, was the case because mankind was settled in different parts and the population was not that much. It was like in bits and pieces that they were settled. So individual prophets were sent to them. And then by the time Abraham came to the scene, which is around 2000 BC, it is known from the Quran, we can clearly decipher this from the Quran, that then guidance was specifically made to be found in the progeny of Abraham. So they were the torch bearers of this guidance. They were ones who would carry this guidance, and they were given the responsibility of making this guidance prosper and at the same time reach other parts of the world. So that is why we find a list of these prophets coming to us. And also many of these prophets that you find here, they are not Rasul, so to speak. They are Nabi, and they are not Rasul. The distinction being that as far as the Rasuls of God are concerned, translated as messengers, so they bring about worldly change in this lifetime. On the behest of God, at the behest of God, they punish people or reward them for whatever they do. And this is something which is only specific to the era of God's messengers. It's not something which prophets of God do. And if you look at this, the list that is being given here, we find Zacharias, John, Jesus, and Elias. And of course, it does seem that Elias is someone whom the Bible calls as Elijah. Elijah is a prophet of God, and because of the fact that these Semitic languages, they have these different pronunciations that change with the change in language. So it does seem, has been the inference of many scholars, that Elias, who's mentioned here, is actually Elijah of the Bible. And all these were among the righteous, as you can see. They were all righteous servants of God, Ishmael, Elisha. That again, two prophets are mentioned in the Bible whose names are similar to the word Elisha. So one of them has the pronunciation Elisha, which is closer to the Quran, and we find from history that he prophesied around 800 BC. And the other one is Isaiah, and he actually prophesied around 750 BC. So it could be either of the two. Elisha could be either Elisha, as you can clearly see, or it could be Isaiah, because these pronunciations are very close to one another. Again, we have to understand that the details of these prophets at times are not given fully, and the Quran has actually given this blanket statement that there are a number of prophets who were sent and they guided people, but they are not mentioned in the Quran. Rusulun kad kasasnahum alayk wa rusulun lam naqsushum alayk. So there are messengers which God has mentioned in the Quran and narrated their stories to the Prophet. And we know from the style of the Quran and the way the whole Quran has been organized that prophets of God who were not known to the Arabs, they are not mentioned here. Because remember, the Quran is delivering the truth to the Arabs in a way that it is trying to argue with them regarding what they knew themselves. So only prophets of God about which they had knowledge of are mentioned here. And there are several other prophets whom the Arabs did not know and which are actually not mentioned by the Quran, as we have seen from this verse. And then it is said, وَمِنْ آبَائِهِمْ وَذُرِّيَّتِهِمْ وَإِخْوَانِهِمْ وَاجْتَبَيْنَاهُمْ وَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And to Ishmael, Elisha, Jonah, and Lot also, each of them we had exalted above the people of the world. Now, of course, this is a general mention on the fact that prophets of God, they have this degree of superiority over human beings because they are the ones who deliver the message of God. And then it is said, moreover, we also guided their forefathers, their children, and their brethren, chose them and guided them to this straight path of monotheism. So this straight path of monotheism, of course, is something that we have to understand, that the word occurs as an undefined noun. It says, وَهَدَيْنَاهُمْ إِلَىٰ صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And we've also discussed this, that at times in the Arabic language, when the noun becomes undefined, it actually expresses the magnitude, it expresses the exaltedness of something. So the path of monotheism is implied here because of the fact that, of course, it connotes its grandeur and exaltedness as a result of the undefined nature of the noun. ذَلِكَ هُدَى اللَّهِ يَهْدِي بِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَلَوْ أَشْرَكُوا لَحَبِطَ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. This is God's guidance. He bestows it on those of His servants whom He chooses according to His law. However, they have been incriminated with polytheism, all their deeds would have become fruitless. Again, all their deeds would have become fruitless, and even if people of that status were incriminated with polytheism, they would have met the same fate. This is what is implied here. So their chosen status, merely because they were the descendants of Noah and Abraham, would not have remained intact. And it seems that this admonition or warning was for the Arabs and for the Israelites as well. So those who, after deviating from monotheism, were dreaming of being the chosen ones because they belonged to the progeny of Abraham, were living in a fool's paradise. Not to speak of the fact that they had succumbed to polytheism. Had they succumbed to polytheism, their deeds would not have borne any fruit. And the Quran says it was these people on whom we bestowed the book. ذَلِكَ هُدَى اللَّهُ يَهْدِي بِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَلَوْ أَشْرَكُوا لَحَبِطَ عَنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. This is God's guidance. He bestows it on those of His servants whom He chooses according to His law. However, had they too been incriminated with polytheism, all their deeds would have become fruitless. Again, mentioning the fact that they cannot boast of the fact that they are followers of Abraham. If they become incriminated with polytheism, if they become incriminated with this evil practice, then their fate is not going to be different. One thing that you might need to once again revise in your minds, dear viewers, here is that remember, in the whole corpus of the Quran, there is not a single verse which calls the people of the book to be polytheists or designates them as polytheists. In spite of the fact we know that they were guilty of a heinous form of polytheism, the Jews of Arabia regarded Ezra to be the son of God. The Christians of Arabia and, of course, the rest of the world regarded Jesus to be the Son of God. So in spite of the fact that they associated partners in the Godhead, we find that they have still been called as monotheists. So this is a style of the Quran that we have to understand, and it is something which is absolutely based on fairness and justice also. Only those people have been called as polytheists who admit to polytheism, who confess polytheism, who confess to polytheism. So the people of the book, of course, they never confess to polytheism. The idolaters, the polytheists, or the Bani Ismail as we know them, the Ishmaelites, they confess to the fact, they acknowledge that they worship more than one God, and hence they have been labeled as al-mushrikun, that they are the polytheists. But the people of the book, they they are deviant monotheists, at what we can say, that although of course associating someone as a son of God is something that, I mean, cannot be comprehended unless we say that this is also a part of or a form of polytheism. But the Quran says that because these people, they themselves call themselves as monotheists, and at the same time they argue that the way Trinity, or the way they believe in three of one of the three, so it's something that is also the same as monotheism. The Quran does not accept it, but it gives them this big leverage, that because they themselves do not claim to be polytheists, they say that we are monotheists, and Trinity, of course, is a form of a form of monotheism. So the Quran has respected this view of them, and it is in light of this and in response to this that we must always realize that the Quran does not regard the people of the book, in spite of what they do regarding associating a son to God, regarding to them to be polytheists. And of course, as far as the Jews are concerned, remember the fact that Ezra has been ascribed to be the son of God by the Jews. This is something, again, that was ascribed by solely the Jews of Arabia. It was something that never happened regarding Jews who were outside of Arabia. So there are people who have criticized the Quran by saying that they say that Jews have regard Ezra to be the son of God. So remember, it's not all the Jews that the Quran is talking about. The Jews of Arabia are the ones the Quran is talking about, and hence when it says that they regarded Ezra to be the son of God, they belong to the particular territory of Arabia and no one else. So, أولئك الذين آتيناهم الكتاب والحكم والنبوة ومن يكفر فإن يكفر بها هؤلاء فقد وكلنا بها قوما ليسوا بها كافرين أولئك الذين هدى الله فبهداه مقتده قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إن هو إلا ذكرى للعالمين. So the words are, it was these people on whom we bestowed the book, authority and prophethood. Now, of course, this refers to the political authority. The word authority here, of course, refers to the political authority. These elders were invested within some status or the other, and because of which they had the opportunity to decide both their individual and collective affairs in accordance with the book of God. So these people of the book, and they are the ones that we are discussing here. Of course, they are the ones who are the Israelites. So about them it is said that they were given this authority to decide the affairs of people. And it is said, فَإِن يَكْفُرْ بِهَا هَؤُلَاءِ فَقَدْ وَكَّلْنَا بِهَا قَوْمًا لَيْسُوا بِهَا كَافِرِينَ. So if these addressees of yours deny it, then there is nothing to worry about, because we have consigned this favor to some others who will not deny it. Again, the word qawman refers to the faction of the companions of the Prophet who came to inhabit Medina, and they were blessed with guidance. It was through their efforts that a nation was instituted, which became the proponents of monotheism for the whole world. So when it said, وَكَّلْنَا بِهَا قَوْمًا آخَرِينَ, or وَكَّلْنَا بِهَا قَوْمًا لَيْسُوا بِهَا كَافِرِينَ, it is actually referring to the companions of the Prophet, who in this matter took the torch, the baton from the from their predecessors, and they passed it on. And actually these words predict the perseverance which will be shown by the companions and the abundance of the ummah as well, as scholars say. And viewed thus, they formed glad tidings for the Prophet himself, that he should not worry. And these glad tidings were given to him when he was passing through a storm of opposition. All hell broke loose against him at that time. Evident from the words is the unassailable verdict of God that the preaching struggle of Prophet Muhammad will be successful. And also apparent from them is that people should not look at the small numbers in whom God has reposed this responsibility. They would be advocates of this message, and those very drops will one day become an ocean. Those small drops will one day constitute a whole ocean, and people will enter into the folds. as you can see. So it is said that it's a reminder for all the people of the world. فَإِن يَكْفُرْ بِهَا هَؤُلَاءِ فَقَدْ وَكَّلْنَا بِهَا قَوْمًا لَيْسُوا بِهَا كَافِرِينَ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ فَبِهُدَاهُمْ اقْتَدِهْ. This is something which is extremely important, dear viewers, to note, and it is being addressed to Prophet Muhammad himself. So what is being said? It is said that these prophets whom we have mentioned, it is they who were the ones guided by God. It is they who are the ones who are guided by God. And then please note these words, فَبِهُدَاهُمْ اِقْتَدِهْ. So follow their ways only. And then it is said, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرَى لِلْعَالَمِينَ. I tell these people, however, I do not want any recompense from you for this message. I am preaching so that if you do not accept it, I shall lose something. It is a mere reminder for all the people of the world. It is a mere reminder for all the people of the world. So the first thing, dear viewers, that we need to note here is this comprehensive nature of God's guidance. The Prophet, peace be upon him, has been told that he must follow the ways of these people or these prophets of God who are his predecessors. So فَبِهُدَاهُمْ اِقْتَدَيْ. The guidance that they brought, the Prophet is liable to follow that guidance. And we know that at other instances, the Prophet has been asked to follow the millat of Ibrahim. Qul bal millat Ibrahim Hanifa, as has been the words, or ittabi'u millat Ibrahim, that follow the religion of Abraham. So clearly what we can see is that all the messengers of God, all the prophets of God, they brought down the same guidance. They brought down the same guidance. Yes, there were certain changes that were made, but primarily guidance consists of faith and morality. So faith and morality from day one, since the time of Adam, have remained the same all over. It is only in the case of the Sharia, which of course has gone through some evolution because of the change and nature of the society, that we can see. Otherwise, the basis of religion, which is al-hikmah, is faith and morality. Since the time of since the time of Adam, all the way up to Prophet Muhammad, every single prophet of God has asked people to believe in the same tenets of faith, in the same tenets of morality. In fact, morality is something which is inborn. And whenever the Quran brings it up, it's just to remind people of what they already have in themselves. So we have to understand that Prophet Muhammad is the last of those messengers, and he has given us the latest edition of God's religion. And it is not that he has given a different edition in the sense that he brought a new religion. No, he has just revived certain precepts that were either forgotten, or at other times he has reminded people of what they had forgotten. So that is why we find the actual word as zikra, which says that it's like a reminder. The words, of course, are أولئك الذين هدى الله فبهداه مقتديه قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إن هو إلا ذكرى للعالمين, which means that it is a mere reminder for people. Now, the first of these facts regarding the Quran being a reminder is that whatever the Quran is presenting was not something that was unknown or unique to them. It was a reminder of the realities ingrained in human nature, but people had buried them beneath their desires and religious innovations. The second important thing that has to be kept in mind in this regard is that the Quran was reminding them of the very guidance which was brought forth by Noah and Abraham and all the prophets, as I've just referred to. But those who claim to associate themselves to these prophets had invented some wrong concepts in relation to some names, and then regarded these wrong concepts as the religion of their forefathers. So through this reminder, the Quran is not only making them remember some forgotten pages of history, but also some forgotten lessons of human nature. So whoever wants can benefit from these nations, and this is one of the most beautiful realities that we find has been enshrined in the Quran, that it is a reminder. This is something that we know in our own selves, but we need to be reminded, and that is what the Quran has done, and it has in huwa illa zikra lil alameen. وما قدر الله حق قدره إذ قالوا ما أنزل الله على بشر من شيء قل من أنزل الكتاب الذي جاء به موسى نورا وهدى للناس تجعلونه قراطيس تبدونها وتخفون كثيرا وعلمتم ما لم تعلموا أنتم ولا آباؤكم قل الله ثم ذرهم في خوضهم يلعبون. In reality, these people did not recognize the due importance of God when they said, God has not revealed anything to any mortal. Ask them, who had then revealed the book brought by Moses, which was a light and guidance for mankind, which they would show to them page by page and would hide most of it, and through which you were given that knowledge which neither you nor your forefathers knew. Say, God only did, then leave them to amuse themselves with their quibbling. So, an important note of caution that has been sounded here is God has not revealed anything to any mortal. This is what they claimed. So, it will become evident from these verses as we go along that this is a reference to the statements of the Jews who, in those times, were trying to instigate the Quraysh. So, they wanted to instigate them and were implanting various objections in their minds. The Jews must have had this in mind that after the Torah, there was no need for a new book or Sharia. And hence, God would reveal nothing to any human being. But the way they gave this statement did not challenge the collective pride of the Arabs, and at the same time, it achieved its required objective. So the Quran is first commented while keeping in view the apparent connotation of the statement that those who regard their Creator to be so aloof from His creation that after creating a strong urge for guidance in them does not provide an answer to it, then it can only be said about them that after remaining the recipients of God's guidance for centuries, they did not recognize the true importance of God. And that is what is expressed here. Ma qadrullah haqqa qadrihi. They did not recognize who God was and expressed an extremely wrong view about an all-knowing and all-wise being. Another thing that you might need to note here is what is said that which they would show to them page by page. So the Torah is something that they would show page by page and would hide most of it. وَتَجْعَلُونَهُ كَرَاتِيسَ تُبْدُونَهَا وَتُخْفُونَ كَثِيرًا. So this is actually an expression of the disregard shown by the Jews for the Torah, and also an answer of the inner aspect of their statement that after what they did with the book of God, it was imperative that a new book and Sharia be revealed so that people were able to come into light from darkness and able to get back to the right path. So remember, tubdunaha wa tukhfuna kathira, they would just express or they would show people some part of the guidance. Remember, the scholars of the Jews, they were the custodians of the book, so it was not in the possession of the common man. So they would come to their scholars and they would not present them with the whole book. As the Quran says, parts of them would be hidden. In fact, if we give due deference, we'll find that major parts of the book would be hidden from them and only a small part would be shown to them. So the Jews had never compiled the Torah, in short, the way it was done in the times of the last prophet, between two covers. They had, on the contrary, divided into various parts and had written each part separately. So it's like the scrolls that were rolled up, and there were different scrolls. And they could easily open up one scroll and not open up the other scroll. And this is how it went about. And when a book is written in parts, on scrolls, on separate sheets, and it is also in the custody of a specific group, the group can easily conceal any part of it. And this is one of the gravest crimes that the scholars of the Jews committed, the rabbis. And the Quran has said that it is evident from the words of the Quran, as I just said, that a greater part of the Torah had been concealed from the common people and a lesser one had been exposed to them. It is something which is very, very apparent. And thus we have to understand that when the Quran says that that you were given that knowledge which neither you nor your forefathers knew, say God only did that, then leave them to amuse themselves with their quibbling. So, like a book that was given to them, it was no other book that could have these characteristics. وَهَذَا كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مُبَارَكٌ مُصَدِّقُ الَّذِي بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ وَلِتُنذِرَ أُمَّ الْقُرَى وَمَنْ حَوْلَهَا وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ وَهُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. So, like that very book, this is a book we have revealed, imbued with great guidance, confirming what came before it, so that you may give glad tidings to people through it, and that you may warn those who live in the mother city and around it. rest assured, those who believe in the hereafter, it is they who shall believe in it, and it is they who protect their prayers. وَهُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. So it is said that it is a book we have revealed, imbued with great blessings. Now, this is a reference to the universal blessings which manifested themselves with the advent of Prophet Muhammad, and of course the revelation of the Quran, and whose glad tidings had been given to Abraham when he had prepared to sacrifice his son at God's behest. And I'm going to just read out a small passage from the Bible, because these are the glad tidings that were given to Abraham, and they have been recorded in the book of Genesis, chapter number 22, and these are verses 15 to 18. So what is said is that the angel of the Lord, called to Abraham. He called to Abraham from heaven a second time and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sands on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on earth, will be blessed because you have obeyed me. So this is what God promised Abraham. And it is in response to this that we are seeing what has been said here, that he is confirming what came before it. Of course, in confirmation of the prophecies about it found in the previous scriptures, and has been revealed so that it can become a conclusive argument on the veracity of the series of prophets that came after the revelation of the Torah. And when it is said, وَلِتُنْزِرَ أُمَّ الْقُرَى وَمَنْ حَوْلَهَا, that you may warn those who live in the mother city and around it. So this part is actually coordinated to the meaning that emanates from the first sentence. So what is being said here is that as a result of the revelation of the Quran, the blessings referred to above manifested themselves for the whole world. And as we have seen from the passage in the book of Genesis also, that we are blessed because of the fact that our progenitor, our forefather Abraham, had been blessed, and he had been promised this, that they will take possession, his progeny will take possession of the cities of the enemies. And it is they who shall believe in it, and it is they who protect their prayers, which is the last part of this verse. So if you look at this very closely, you'll find that this is a reference to the pious among the people of the book. It is being said, Allazina yuminuna bil akhirati, yuminuna bihi, that those who believe in the hereafter, they believe in the Quran, wa hum ala salatihim yuhafizun, and they also protect their prayers. So the Quran has actually praised them at a number of occasions, and at every instance has stated that they can be recognized by their diligent adherence to the prayer and their recital of the revelation of the Quran by night and day. So remember, it's not just the deviance or the dissidents among the people of the book that have been mentioned in the Quran. This mention of the righteous among the people of the book also is found at several instances in the Quran, and this is one of those when it says, "Allazina yu'minuna bil akhirati yu'minuna bihi," that those who believe in the hereafter will believe in this Quran, and they are the ones who protect their prayers. So this is being referred to the people of the book who had professed faith. So I'll stop here, and inshallah we'll continue with the surah in our later sessions. And if you have any questions regarding what we have studied today, please raise them.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saleem. Thank you for your wonderful explanation. Asif Saab, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
My question is in light of the verse 88.
Okay.
And what is it that shirk pollutes in a person's beliefs and actions that result in all the deeds to become fruitless? I want to know, like, the negative and detrimental ethical, social, and economic manifestations that shirk causes as a result of one's committing shirk. I mean, this
See, that is not what the problem of the Quran does not relate to the consequences it causes in our economic life. It says that this is the greatest injustice that you can commit on the face of the earth. You had no knowledge that God has partners. And this is something that only God could have divulged. Only He could have informed us that He has a partner. Because He is not divulged any such information, so if we make it up ourselves, it is like creating falsehood against God. And that is why at other instances the Quran says that it is iftara Allah. It's concoction of or fabrication against God, which makes it an unjust act per se. It in itself is something which is absolutely unjust. Obviously, the consequences, we know that people who indulge in polytheism, they become answerable, they think that they're answerable to a number of deities, they go against their nature, they try to please several people at the same time, and then they become superstitious also, they don't have the right way to move forward, and as a result, we find these things getting accumulated. But what you need to understand, perhaps, is that polytheism per se is an act of injustice, and any act of injustice is going to have the consequences that are far-reaching.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Just a reminder for everyone that make sure that your questions are pertaining to the passage until we open the forum for open questions. Shabana Ansari, please unmute your mic and ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
डॉक्टर साहब, ये वाली आयत तो बहुत अहम है जो आपने बताई ना, फबिहुदाहुम इख्तदे, यानी कि नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को कहा जा रहा है कि सारे अंबिया जो हैं उनके के उसवा को आप फॉलो करें, और जैसे हजरत इब्राहिम के लिए भी को भी फॉलो करने के लिए कहा गया। तो जबकि हमारे यहाँ जो है वो ये समझा जाता है कि नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम आखिरी नबी हैं और सिर्फ उनको हमें फॉलो करना है। हालांकि मुख्तलिफ अंबिया की मुख्तलिफ हालात हैं, जो हजरत ईसा के हैं, जो हजरत यूसुफ के हैं, वो हालात नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को पेश नहीं आए, तो उसके हिसाब से हम उनको भी फॉलो कर सकते हैं और उनको भी उसवा हसना इख्तियार कर सकते हैं। लेकिन हमारे माशरे में जो है इस चीज को बिल्कुल ही वो मुकाबला किया जाता है कि बस नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम को ऊंचा किया जाए और बाकियों को कहा जाए। तो यही बात है ना, इस पे आप कुछ कमेंट।
It's exactly precisely the same thing that you have just said. And one thing that you might need to add to this is that you see the guidance which was brought by previous prophets of God has not been entirely preserved. So we do have bits and pieces, we do have certain oral traditions, and we do have a record of them in the Torah at various instances. But because of the fact that at times they are fragmentary, at times we find history entering into the actual guidance and amalgamating it with a lot of things which are contrary to the truth. So what is being said here is that you must not have any bias against the guidance brought by prophets before Prophet Muhammad himself, but in reality what we can see is that that guidance must be ratified by the Quran, because the previous guidance that we have, we cannot be 100% sure, especially when there are instances in which that guidance is clearly in conflict with the Quran. So in that case, we will follow the Quran, and the reason for that is that we would say that that part of the guidance that was brought by the previous prophets of God somehow was not able to reach us in its original form, or was corrupted by some other reasons or factors. But yes, as far as showing respect to all prophets of God is concerned, we have so many other verses also which say that La nufarriqu bayna ahadim min rusulihi, that, oh God, we do not differentiate between any of your messengers, we give them equal respect. So that is what the Quran has said repeatedly. But unfortunately, as you pointed out, there have been these divides and factions in the history of mankind, and that divide has been because of the fact that they regard their own prophet to be elevated and highly regarded than the rest of the prophets.
और लेकिन जितना कुरान में है उनका जिक्र है, उस हिसाब से तो हम कर सकते हैं ना, उनकी दुआएं हैं और उनके वाकयात हैं, उस हिसाब से। और खुद नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने जैसे हजरत यूसुफ अलैहिस्सलाम का जिक्र किया कि ला तसरीबा, मतलब उन्होंने उनके उसवे को फॉलो किया कि ला तसरीबा अलैकुमुल यौम, और इस तरह मतलब उसमें रिवायात में मुख्तलिफ अंबिया का जिक्र करते हुए पाए जाते हैं कि नहीं, वो मुझसे ज्यादा बुलंद थे, जब कभी आपकी तारीफ की जाती थी। तो ये भी सामने आता है। बहुत शुक्रिया जज़ाकल्लाह।
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. I do not have any raised hands right now. If anybody has any questions, please ask your questions. Otherwise, we will be moving on to the idiomatic translation. Dr. Saleem, I think no more questions.
Okay. So, starting off with the literal and idiomatic translation, وَتِلْكَ حُجَّتُنَا آتَيْنَاهَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ wa, and tilka, this. Of course, this is referring to the previous passage of the Quran that we read last week regarding the rising and setting of the heavenly bodies. So, while referring to it, the Quran says, Tilka hujjatuna. This is the conclusive reasoning or conclusive argument. Atainaha, we gave Ibrahim to Abraham. Allah qawmihi, against his people. Allah against qawmihi, his people. Narfa'u, we raise. darajat, ranks after ranks, man nashaw, about whomsoever we want to. So we raise the ranks of people one after the other, or in other words, in various ways regarding whomsoever we would like to. And then it is said, Inna Rabbaka Hakimun Alim, Inna indeed Rabbaka, your Lord, Hakim, wise, Alim, knowledgeable. And indeed, your Lord is wise and knowledgeable, which means that when you raise ranks of people, it's not haphazard, it's not out of any lack of consistency, it is based on His knowledge and His wisdom. وَوَهَبْنَا لَهُ إِسْحَاقَ wa, and wahabna, we gave him, we gave it actually, lahu, to him, Ishaqa, Isaac, wa, and Yaqub, Jacob. So it's referring to the fact that Abraham was given Isaac and Jacob. Of course, Isaac was his own son and Jacob was Isaac's son. Kullan hadaina, each of them we guided. Wa Nuhan hadaina, and we guided Noah, min qabl, before Abraham. Wa, and min zurriyatihi, from amongst his progeny. And who are these? Dawood, David. Wa, and Sulaiman, Solomon. Wa, and Ayub, Ayub is Job. Wa, and Yusuf, Joseph. Wa, and Musa is Moses. Wa, Harun, and Aaron. Wa kazalika najzil muhsinin. Wa, and kazalika, in this way, najzi, we reward al muhsinin, the righteous. In this way do we reward the righteous. And then the list continues. Wa, and Zachariah, Zacharias, and Yahya, Yahya is John, and Isa, and Jesus, wa Ilyas, and Ilyas too. Kullum min as-salihin, each of them was amongst the righteous. And to continue with the list, wa Ismail, and Ishmael, wa Yasa, and Yasa, wa Yunusa, and Jonah, wa Luta, and Lot, wa kullan faddalna, and each of them we elevated, ala, upon, alamin, people of the world. So each of them we elevated above the people of the world. Wa, and min abaihim, from amongst their forefathers. Wa zurriyatihim, and from their progeny. Wa ikhwanihim, and from their brethren. Wajtabaynahum, and we selected them. Wa hadaynahum, and we guided them. Ila, towards, siratim mustaqim, the straight path. Zalika hudallah, this is the guidance of God. Zalika hudallah, this is the guidance of God. Yahdi bihi man yasha, who He guides whomsoever He wishes. So this is the guidance of God, and He gives this guidance. Yahdi bihi, He gives this guidance bihi man yasha, to whomsoever He wants. Min ibadihi, from among His servants, from among His people. Wa, and law, if ashraku, they had committed polytheism, lahabita, gone wasted, anhum, from them, ma kanu ya'malun, what they had been doing. So had they committed polytheism, what they had been doing would have just gone away from them, they would have been wasted away. Ulaika allazina, these are the people, ataynahum, to whom we gave, al-kitab, the book, wal-hukm, and authority, wan-nubuwa, and prophethood. So these are the people to whom we gave the book, authority, and prophethood, referring to the Israelites. فَإِن يَكْفُرْ بِهَا, therefore, in, if, yakfur, they deny, biha, this, yakfur biha haulai, if they deny this, faqad wakkalna, therefore, indeed, wakkalna, we will depute, biha, it, qawman, a nation, laysu, not, biha, about it, bikafirin, deniers. So actually, idiomatically, it would mean that فَإِن يَكْفُرْ بِهَا, that if they also deny it, then what will happen is وَكَّلْنَا بِهَا قَوْمًا, we will designate, or we will depute another nation, لَيْسُوا بِهَا كَافِرِينَ, who will not be its rejectors or deniers. Ulaika, it is they, allazina, who, hadallah, God has guided. So it is these people whom God has guided. Fabihudahum, so therefore, regarding their guidance, iqtadeh, you follow them. So therefore, about their guidance, you must follow them. Qul, ask. La, not. As'alukum, I ask you, alayhi, upon it, ajra, any reward. So tell them, I do not ask from you any reward about this. In not, huwa, that, illa, except, zikra, reminder, lil alameen, to the world. So it is not except a reminder to the people of the world. Zikra, reminder, lil alameen, to the people of the world. Ma qadar wa ma qadarullah haqqa qadrihi, wa and ma, not qadarullah, they gave importance to God, haqqa qadrihi, the way importance should have been given. Is qalu, is when, qalu, they said, ma, not, anzalallahu, God has revealed, ala, upon, basharin, his servant, min shay, anything. So they did not give due importance to God when they said, ma anzalallah, God has not revealed, ala basharin, upon his servant, min shay, and anzal al-kitaba, has revealed the book, allazi, who, ja'a bihi, which was brought to you, or which came with Musa, with Moses, Nuram wa Huda, as guidance and light, linnas, for people. So ask them, who has revealed the book brought by Moses? Man anzal al kitab, who has revealed the book, Ja'a bihi Musa, that has been brought by Moses, and this is what? It's Nur wa Huda, it's light and guidance, linnas, for people. Taj'alunahu, you make it, karatis, into pages. So you make it into pages, which means that you show them to people page by page. Tubdunaha, you hide it. Wa tukhfun, tubdunaha, you reveal it. Wa tukhfuna kasira, and you hide a lot. So in other words, what is being said is that this Torah has been revealed in, you have collected a Torah into parts, into scrolls, and you show them to people and you hide a greater part of it. Tukhfuna kasira means that you hide a greater part of it. Wa ullimtum, and so when you hide, you hide a lot of it, which means that you were given that knowledge. Wa ullimtum ma lam ta'lamu, that was not given to anyone. Wa ullimtum ma lam ta'lamu would mean that you were taught that which was not taught to anyone. Antum wala abaukum, neither you nor your forefathers. So what is being said here is that the knowledge that you were given was not ever being received by you or by your forefathers. Then they knew nothing about you. In other words, you were given that knowledge which neither you nor your forefathers knew. None of them were aware of it. Qulillah, tell them, Allah, it is God. So when it is said that you were given that knowledge which neither you nor your fathers knew, the question, of course, is that they have to, when they pose this question, then the answer to this is that it was God who did so. It was He who revealed this knowledge. Summa, then, zarhum, leave them, fi, in, hawzihim, in their quibbling. So leave them in their quibbling, yal'abun, that they do while amusing oneself. Yal'abun, they play about. They amuse themselves by playing about. Wa, and haza, this, kitabun, is a book, anzalnahu, which we have revealed, mubarakun, it is blessed, musaddikun, it confirms, allazi bayna yadayhi, that which is in front of them, wa, and litunzira, so that you are able to warn, al qura, the mother city. It's like saying the capital city. al qura, the capital city. Wa, and man, those, hawlaha, are around it. So this is a book through which you are going to warn the people in the capital city and those who are around it, who live around it. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ, wa, and allazina, those who, yu'minuna bil akhirah, believe in the hereafter, yu'minuna bihi, will believe in him also. It is they who shall believe in or it could be believe in this book also. Wahum, and they, ala, upon, salatihim, their prayer, yuhafizun, protectors. So they are the people who will believe in this book, and they are the ones who also protect their prayers. So this brings us to a completion to our idiomatic translation as well. Now, if you have questions regarding the whole passage or any part of it, of course, this is the time for that.
If anybody has any questions, please go ahead, raise your hands. Okay, I'll ask a question in the meantime. So tell me, Dr.
Okay.
Saleem, Jesus came from the same line as Isaac, and he was also not accepted by the Jews at that time. You know, obviously, Prophet Muhammad came from Ismail's line, so that was entirely different.
Mhm.
Why is that? That means the Jews weren't willing for any prophet to come, even though they had been told that they will be getting a prophet.
So they were not willing to accept any prophet who did not belong to their own lineage.
But wasn't
So
Isaac from their own lineage? Like, sorry,
he was from their own
Isa?
lineage. So they were not willing to accept Jesus, of course, because they thought that he is a false prophet, and a prophet could not have been so so lame, so to speak, as to have just 12 or 13 disciples. How could he be the king of the Israelites? How could he have this wherewithal? So they denied Jesus for different reasons and Muhammad for different reasons. So both have different reasons. For Muhammad, it was because of the fact that he did not come from their own lineage. From Jesus, it was because they thought that Moses was the final prophet, and if there was a prophet to come, the Messiah that they were waiting for, then that Messiah could not have been Jesus, because this is not how prophets of God are, that they are crucified, or at least people try to crucify them, and they don't have any territory, and they don't have any followers. Remember, Jesus, when he left this world, he just had about 12 or 15 followers. So they were not willing to accept him to be a prophet of God.
Right. Okay. So I have another question since we don't have any raised hands right now. So tell me, Dr. Salim, for the prayers, like we talked about last time, you said that all the prayers except for the Fajr prayers, they go on to time for one to say their prayers is until the next prayer, time
Right.
comes up. So that because as somebody was born into a Muslim family, that's something that was never made clear to me. That in itself makes a religion very easy. So my
Correct.
question to you is, once that was clarified in the last session, my question to you is, there are so many things in Islam that are extremely simple and easy, but it's been made so complicated for a common man to follow. What is the reason for that?
I mean, the reasons are many and multifarious, because you see, what has happened is that religion has become more of a localized cultural thing. People, instead of doing more research and finding out the truth, they just confine themselves to whatever is available. It could be a cultural mix, it could be anyone saying anything. And because of the fact that we are now divided into various sects, and each sect has its own interpretation, and people are asked to blindly follow every sect, not use your own intellect, not use your own sense, and find out the reason. So basically, it's that blind following that accounts for a lot of things, that you're just told that you have to follow certain things, and just you don't have to question them, and just go about following them. So the whole mindset is something that has made us lame in this regard. We don't question things, or if the questions do arise in our mind, then because they are lulled to sleep, or they are made to lull to sleep, we don't get any further, and we just try to hush them beneath the carpet, that the question might not satisfy us, but because of the fact that there's no satisfactory answer, and at the end of the day we are told that it's blindly following whatever has been told to you, that every I would say concept that we find questionable in our mind, we are not able to answer it, because at the end we are told that you just have to you just have to follow what you're being told. So that is accounted for this.
Shabana Ansari, please go ahead, ask your question. Thank you.
डॉक्टर साहब, ये किसी का सवाल है कि उन्होंने मुझसे पूछा है कि वो कहते हैं कि अगर किसी के ऊपर जैसे क्राइसिस है, किसी पर कोई फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस है या कुछ माली तौर पे परेशानियां हैं, तो वो कहते हैं कि क्या मतलब एक तो अपने तौर पे कोशिश करना होता है, अगर वो उस क्राइसिस से नहीं निकल पा रहे हैं, तो किसी और से मदद तलब करना जो है वो तवक्कुल के खिलाफ होगा या उनको लेनी चाहिए? इसके बारे में आप क्या बताएंगे?
Why should it be against the trust with God? I mean, you have tried your best, and if things are not improving and you can get help of someone else, that is why people are there for you. And of course, you should go forward and ask for their help. And if they can help you around, it should not be any matter of ego or pride for you. It's not against your trust with God.
नहीं, ईगो नहीं डॉक्टर साहब, ईगो नहीं, जो आमतौर पे सफेद पोश लोग होते हैं तो उनके लिए वो शर्मिंदगी का बायस होता है ना, तो वो इस
So
सेंस
that's
में
what I'm
बात है,
saying.
ईगो की
You
बात
see,
नहीं है।
that is what is we call false ego. That's false modesty as well. That is precisely
अच्छा
what I'm saying. You don't understand. You don't understand that it is actually a form of false ego that we have that stops us, and it would not be against our trust with God. It's not against that, because helping out one another is what God has asked our brethren to do. And if we think that we should be only asking God for that then we are mistaken. We should ask God, and God is going to put into the hearts of other people to help you out. So unless we present our petition before other people, how can they know that we are in need? So a lot of people, they would not even be knowing that we are in need, and they would be willing to help us. But how could they come unless they know that we need help? So we need to bring it into their notice.
सही है, ज़ाहिर है उनको गैब का इल्म तो हो नहीं सकता सही बात है।
Correct.
थैंक यू।
Asif Saab, please ask your question. Thank you.
We know Hazrat Abu Bakr compiled a piece of narratives from the Holy Prophet, but
Correct.
later upon the directions of the Prophet, he in fact burned that compilation just in order to avoid any mixing with the holy revelations at that time. So if this was the case and the Prophet didn't allow his companions to compile the narratives that depict his sayings or his explanations or his doings or his, agreeing with some acts, if he discouraged, then why is it that in later times the Muslims again started collecting and compiling such narrations? And we know that because of these narrations, we see huge differences, and we can see a whole sect among the Muslims as such that its whole narrative is built on such narrations. So how you will explain?
So you see, this has to be understood in the light of the revelation itself. You see, initially when the Quran was being revealed, we find that the Prophet said, "La taktabu anni illa al-Quran, illa al-ayah." So don't write from anything that is other than the Quran, giving this importance of the fact that this revelation must be the concentration that you should always put into. Otherwise, you might get distracted. Otherwise, he never discouraged people from not transmitting his piece of information. We know that he gave the last sermon. That last sermon said, فَلْيُبَلِّغُ الشَّاهِدُ وَالْغَائِبُ. Those who are present here should communicate to other people. And we have other instances as well. It is only because of being very cautious at the time when the Quran was being revealed that he had said that whenever you write something down from me, it should be the Quran, which means that if you have to say something from me, you can transmit it orally. But when you write something, it must be the Quran, because what becomes written becomes something very important. So his discouragement was for writing down and not for communicating. So that is not what is my opinion is. He did not discourage people at all. He only said that if would like to write down something, then as long as the Quran was being revealed, it should only be the Quran.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Ruhi Rasool, please ask your question.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
सर ये है लाइन नंबर 9, उसमें एक फ्रेज है फबे हुदा हुमुक्तदे। इसमें जो ये वर्ड है हुमुक्तदे, ये वर्ड मैं पहली दफा पढ़ रही हूँ, मुझे इसकी समझ नहीं आ रही कि ये किस सेंस में फॉलो
इक्तदा मीन्स टू फॉलो।
सर ये पहले मैंने फॉलो के सेंस में कभी नहीं पढ़ा। इक्तदे का क्या मतलब है?
Iqtida means to follow. I mean, if you have not read this earlier on, let this be an instance in which your knowledge has increased. It's a very common Arabic word. It is also used in our Urdu language. Haven't you heard that people saying that you are reading the namaz padhe, unki iqtida mein namaz padhe. You follow the prayer and you read the namaz and by following them. So iqtida is also used in our Urdu language.
Thank you, Dr. Saleem. Shabana, please ask your question.
और मुक्तदी कहते हैं वो जो नमाज पढ़ने वाले जो पीछे
Followers are called मुक्तदी, correct?
जी। डॉक्टर साहब ये तौरात जो थी वो वर्क जिसको आपने स्क्रोल कहा या उसको तुमार भी कहा जाता है ना उर्दू में?
करेक्ट, यस।
तो उसमें थी, तो वो जाहिर है कि उलमा इनके जो है उनके पास ही होती थी, जिसको चाहते थे वो जाहिर कर देते थे और बाकी छुपा लेते थे।
That is what the Quran has told us. It was not in the possession of every person. The
हर
scholars
एक
would
की
be
रीच में
teaching
नहीं
them.
था।
Right.
जैसे अब कुरान तो हर एक के सामने है ना, लेकिन कोशिश तो शुरू में यहाँ पर भी मतलब जैसे लोगों को यही कहा जाता था कि खुद से ना पढ़ें, किसी आलिमों के
Right.
थ्रू पढ़ें, तो लेकिन
Right.
अब तो लोगों में शऊर आ रहा है, तो उनके में ये आसानी थी कि वो छुपा जाते थे। ये बात मैंने पूछी
Right.
थी।
Right.
थैंक यू।
So, Dr. Salim, expanding on the same question that Shabana asked, so how long before the Quran became common for everyone and it wasn't, from the beginning? Could everybody just read it, or because obviously there weren't
Course,
as many copies?
from the very first day, remember the Quran was being read out in the prayer. It was read out in the Fajr prayer and the Maghrib prayer and the Isha prayer. Then people were deputed to, there were people who would come in delegations from other parts of Arabia, and we know that even in the Meccan period, we had some Christians coming in their delegation to meet the Prophet. So they were taught the Quran. The Prophet, in fact, at times sent a teacher to teach them the Quran, and it is something that became public knowledge right from the beginning. And that is why you see that the Quran is addressing the mushrikun also. That could not have been the case unless they are read out what they are being told. So the idolaters were being told openly in the Quran, and then it was communicated to them. Similar was the case with the people of the book. So from day one, this was the case that, it was communicated. Of course, the degree was different. We know that initially it was in a gradual way. That is what we call the inzar or the warning phase. Then we had the inzar-e-am phase, which is the enhanced warning phase, in which all and sundry were addressed. Initially, just the family of the Prophet or people who were close to him were addressed. So that was more of a strategy that they adopted. Otherwise, it was from day one that the Quran was openly communicated.
So, unlike the other books where they had gatekeepers who would just give partial information to the people to control them, that was never the case with the Quran.
That was never the case for the Quran.
Okay. Okay. Shabana has her hand up. Shabana, go ahead, ask your question.
डॉक्टर साहब आपको मुबारक हो, आपको उधर से गामनी
हाँ.
सेंटर की तरफ से लाइफ अचीवमेंट अवार्ड मिल रहा है, तो
Congratulations to you, Dr. Saleem. Thank you for
Thank
everything
you.
that you do for us. And inshallah, we'll see everybody on the 21st of September.
Inshallah.
And we'll be back. Thank you, Dr. Saleem, for everything. And safe travels.
Thank you.